Hey, this is Jeff again with the Liable REIGUIDEService.com, REIGUIDEService.com. Want to do a real quick video and talk about deferred maintenance. I've been making quite a few posts about deferred maintenance. I think it's incredibly important. It's very underrated as to one of the reasons why properties fail, why investments fail, why they stop performing or underperforming. So deferred maintenance, oh my goodness, I think my marker's going to decide not to work. Deferred maintenance. I'm going to go back and do the little caption things anyway, so whatever. Deferred maintenance is important to accommodate for, and it's all about scale. So if you have a single family home that you're renting out, well, no big deal. You just need to go through all the deferred maintenance items. So if you plan on owning a property, let's just say 30 years, okay? That's how long your note is typically on a property. So let's go with 30 years to make it easy, right? Well, if you have your typical house, and let's just say $200,000 house, okay? So you have a $200,000 house, and on this $200,000 house, you're going to have maintenance all the time. And here's what you're going to have. So over that 30 years, you're going to have a ton of different stuff. First of all, you're going to need two roofs. Two roofs for that property in 30 years. Maybe insurance will pay for one of them, but if it doesn't, you're going to have to pay for it. Two roofs on a property. Let's just say on the low end of things, you're going to be talking about, let's say $30,000 on the low end of things for these two roofs. So let's say $30,000. Now that's over the 30 years. So that means every year it's going to cost you $1,000 for that. So every year of ownership, you're also going to have to accommodate for a little bit of a payment towards this roof. Because if you're renting out a property and you're making $250 a month off that property, at the end of that year, 4 months of that is going to go towards this roof. Okay? So now, let's say that you have this property for 30 years. You're also going to need, let's say, 2 water heaters, a couple $1,000. So that's just $4 grand, right? Then you're going to need probably 2 AC units. Let's say that's $20,000. Let's say $16,000. You get it done cheap, and we're assuming now that the prices haven't gone insanely higher in this time frame, right? Because in the next 30 years, I can guarantee you that your roof isn't going to get done for $30,000 or for $15,000. You might get $15,000 this year, you know, or you see what I'm saying? The value of things goes up. Okay, not going to overcomplicate that. So then, just keep going through all the stuff. If it's a rental property, you're going to need to paint it. You know, you're going to have to do that. When you paint, maybe you only have to pay a couple $1,000s for, you know, make readies because you did your painting and all that. But then if you're also losing a month's worth of rent or property value in that time, okay, so now you have to accommodate for lost rent and add up what all of these numbers are. And just typically speaking, it's about the same as that original purchase price. So when you're talking about deferred maintenance stuff and you add up air conditioning, appliance repair, you're going to need, you know, upgrades like countertops, counters, backsplashes, bathroom tub surrounds. All of those things in 30 years are going to have to be replaced. You're essentially going to have to replace your entire house in 30 years. Siding's not going to last, you know, 30 years unless you're doing a lot of the regular maintenance and management and care. You can get siding to last that long. You can get a metal roof to last that long. But if you do a metal roof, you're going to be paying all of this the first time. So the first time, so if you buy a $200,000 house and you put a roof on it, the first time you put that roof on, it's going to cost you $30,000 because it's going to cost you about twice as much. But paying that twice as much now locks in the price of what that's going to cost, because in 20 years from now, when you need that new roof because you didn't go with a metal roof, in 20 years from now, you're going to have to pay probably $30,000, $25,000. I can tell you I've been in business for 30 years and the price has more than doubled on roofing since I've been in business. So it's fair to assume that this same shingle roof is going to cost a lot more, but minimum speaking, you're going to be repaying this over the 30 years. So if you take that $200,000 number and you divide it over by 30 years, that's going to give you what the total cost to you, what you have to be paying month after month. Because here's what happens: apartment complexes, strip centers, single family homes, all of those things, what essentially winds up happening is, that made it into the jar. What winds up happening is that people don't think about these things. And so, you know, the money for the siding being painted and maintained isn't there, and so the property doesn't look quite as nice. And so people aren't willing to pay quite as much for rent on that property. You're not going to get as good a tenants in that property because the property doesn't look as good. You start to get holes in your parking lot of your strip center or your apartment complex. These things devalue the property. And when you devalue the property, what you're essentially doing is making less money. You're unable to gain the maximum amount of return on investment because the property value is going down. The quality of the property is going down. And if you don't do these maintenance items, that's essentially what winds up happening is the property value goes down because these maintenance items aren't being done. Then you can get less money. You have less money to do maintenance items. The property goes down. And bad management, bad maintenance is the reason that investors can go out and buy properties that are undervalued, because people don't think about deferred maintenance. They don't take care of the management aspect as far as making sure that everything that needs to be done is done to maximize that ROI year after year, year after year for 30 years. They're looking at it short term, they're making $250 a month. They put a little tiny bit of money aside just in case the tenant moves out, but they don't think about the $2,000 it's going to cost, you know, to reposition that property for a new renter. They don't think about the $10,000, $15,000 it's going to cost if they decide that they want to fix it up enough to sell it. They're not thinking about the fact that it's going to have a water heater that needs to be replaced. The fixtures are going to go out. The toilet's going to back up. They're not thinking about the cost of owning a property, and there are those costs when it comes to owning real estate. So anyway, think about your deferred maintenance, think about your management, make sure you come up with a really good plan, write down an estimate of what all of these things are. You figure a rental property is empty every 2 years. Every 2 years you're going to have to spend a couple $1,000s to do make ready on it. There are things that you can do to minimize it, just like with this roof situation. If you pay for the metal roof now, yes, it's way more expensive now, but over the long-term ownership of this property, it's going to save you a tremendous amount of money. Those big investments up front in your long-term maintenance items are going to make it so that your property is more valuable in the long run, obviously, but it also is going to make it so that it's less work on you, less questions in the future, and it's really just going to make it so that your property can be more manageable. Be blessed, bless others. ReGuideService.com, REIGUIDESERVICE.com. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. I'm always happy to help when I can. Later.